manifested as Rudra. And Rudra immediately wanted to destroy the universe. And he had to say, hey, whoa, 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 whoa. Not so fast. A little early for this. Go and perform austerity, perform tapasya, and so on. So the key word here, the key concept here is purpose. What is the purpose for exhibiting such a tendency? Matra swasraduhitrava naivivikshano bhavet balavan indriya gramo vidvanshana pikarshati. That you might be a vidvan, you might be a learned scholar, bhakti shastri, bhakti vaibhav, bhakti vedanta, or bhakti something, yet still there is the tendency, there is that inclination to be attached in this world on a gross or subtle level, and thus one can become compromised. You all know the story from Jaimini and his guru, Vyas. Who knows the story? Okay, Archita knows the story. 2 people know the story. All right, we'll give it in brief. One time Jaimini, he heard this verse. It's in the Bhagavatam, in the 9th canto. And he said, how can this possible? How can a vidvan, a person who is educated, who is learned, be attracted to matra svasradu hitrava, to his mother, to his sister, or to his daughter? I mean, it's not very cultured, right? It's just not acceptable. So he had this doubt. And then that same night, there was a big storm. And there was rain and thunder, a lot of wind. It became very cold. And he was in his little kutir, in his hut. And all of a sudden, there was a knock on the door. He said, who is it? And there was a lady outside. And she said she's tormented by the elements and she needs shelter. So he said, look, I'm a renunciate. You just go away. But the lady persisted. So he thought, okay, fine. So let's give her shelter. So, all right, you can stay on the porch. But then after a while, he started thinking, maybe not so nice, have her on the porch. I'm inside. It's not proper culture. It's not really proper etiquette. So then said, okay, let me switch with her. So he went outside and she went inside. But then he saw her form and there was a storm. So he saw her beauty. Then he was outside and his mind was reeling. And then he started knocking on the door. And she said, no, I'm a chaste lady. I cannot open the door under any circumstance. So he said, well, I want to marry you. She said, well, we can do that, but there is one condition. He said, anything, I'll do anything. Whatever it is, I can make it happen. Remember, I'm Jaimini. I'm a powerful person. So the condition was that he would carry her on his force up the mountain. Then she would marry him. So the storm passed over and the sun came out and he got down. She sat on his back and he was crawling up the mountain and there was gravel. There was thorns. He got injured. He got bleeding, but he persevered. And all of a sudden, he was up there on the mountain and he thought, okay, now the lucky moment has arrived. It's time for enjoyment. We can do this. And the lady got off his back. He turned around. And who did he see? Vyasadeva, his guru. And what did he say? Vidvangsa napikarshati. So these tendencies are there, and we have to become aware of our frailties, of our tendencies. That's why Prabhupada created ISKCON, so we can become aware of our frailties. It may not be so easy. We don't like strangers to poke around in our lives. But that's what you have friends for. Friends are people who are so dear to you that you allow them to tell you what you don't want to hear. Bharat, he did not have that sangha, and therefore he became attached to a deer. We can become attached to other things. I remember one time in the 90s, these iPods came out. You know, these little things. Remember? All kinds of little gadgets came out. And, you know, you contemplate the objects of the senses. You see something and you think like, hey, that looks cute. Maybe I should have one of those. Did you ever think like that? Never, right? Never. How many ever thought like that? 1, 2. We got 5, 7 honest people. All the others, they never shop online. They don't know what Amazon is. Never go to the mall. So I saw some Gurukul kid. He had one of those little things, and he said, you know, you can put all the lectures on this and all the music. I thought, wow, that's really nice. The next day, my friend Brahma Muhurta from Sweden, he came and he gave me a gift. Now, everybody likes to receive gifts. So I was very happy. I got the gift, I opened it up. And what was inside? iPod Nano with all of Prabhupada's lectures. And it had my name on the back engraved with it. Compliments from the BBT. At first, I was very happy. But on second thought, I thought, why do I keep on desiring things and Krishna is giving me things? A few days ago, I was in Ann Arbor and we had Harinam there in front of university. And just as I was unloading the books, I heard somebody playing ukulele in his car. So I went over to the person and I showed him the book, and we had a very meaningful, a very deep conversation. It was a young Jewish man who was very intrigued by spirituality and who had read almost the entire science of self-realization. He had a lot of questions about how to combine the paths and how we're actually on the same path and what it means to be authentic in one's spirituality. And then at the end, he gave me a bag of macadamia nuts with sea salt, an entire bag. And again, I thought, where did that desire come from? You know, it's weird. Why some stranger just gives me this, you know? So the process of Krishna consciousness requires reflection, introspection. Because to know one's weakness is your strength. If you're not aware of your weakness, then Maya's got you. You all know the story of Achilles' heel. He was weak on one point, just like Duryodhana. He had many flaws, but in combat, he was weak on one point. So in a similar way, because we have a human nature, we have a conditional nature and a constitutional nature. A constitutional nature is Sachidananda. We're eternal servants of Guru and Krishna. We're full of knowledge, we're wise, we're eternal, we're blissful. Yet our constitutional nature sometimes becomes overshadowed by our conditional nature, our human frailties. So especially when we enter the realm of passion and ignorance, the lower modes of nature, it becomes very easy to become attached. And then when attachment is not fulfilled, we become angry. I remember also in the 90s, back when we were young, one time in a marathon, we came back from the marathon and we had obviously worked very hard and endeavored to achieve the greatest possible offering, the greatest possible result. But to our dismay, we heard that one lady distributed more books than ourselves. And we almost had a heart attack. I don't know if you ever had that feeling of serious palpitations. Thank you. Serious palpitations. Said this is not good. This is not possible. This is just not acceptable. So I immediately jumped back in the van and drove down to the Zurich train station in front of the post office that's open 24/7. And I distributed a few more stacks of books in order to do a little more. But then in retrospect, I thought, why am I so attached? Huh? Why am I so attached to this score, to this number? Huh? Right now, I'm dealing with devotees. Some of them are producing great scores. Others are producing greater scores. Others producing medium or smaller scores. And sometimes it can become a little discouraging. It can become a little frustrating if you compare yourself with others. You think, why can't I lead kirtan like these Prabhus? Why can't I distribute as many books? Why can't I know so many shlokas or do so many things? Krishna has invested a very unique gift, a very unique talent into each and every living entity. And to honor and appreciate that talent and use it in Krishna's service is bhakti. Narottam Das Thakur says in one of his beautiful songs that we can even use lust, anger, greed. We can use all these tendencies in Krishna's service. And in this way, we can purify them. But that requires a service attitude and a team player attitude. If we're fanatics, if we're fanatical and separatists, we will separate ourselves from the association of mature devotees who are free from the tendency to criticize others. And we will create our own little group where we're confident and comfortable to pursue our own ideology. And Srila Prabhupada wanted this ISKCON society to be a sangha, satsanga, an honest, a truthful association, where we can help each other to perform devotional service in a pure way. Rupa Goswami explains what that means. Anyabhilashita shunyam jnana karmadyanavritam anukulyena krishna nushilanam bhakti ruttama. Without the tendency of karma and jnana, without the tendency of fruitive result, I need to have a bigger score. There's a few stories like that in the Bhagavatam. Prithu Maharaj, he was known as the one who was a great upholder of Dharma, Shaktivesh avatar, and he had performed so many horse sacrifices. Yet Indra came and he stole his horse. And that gave him great trouble. And he wanted to go after Indra. But then he was appeased by higher authorities who told him, look, it's okay. Let Indra, let him be. Let him be. Dhruva Maharaj, his brother was killed. He went after the Yakshas and he wiped them out. And he was stopped by higher authority. Hold your horses. Is not required. Don't overshoot the target. Have you ever overshot the target? You were a little too trigger happy and then you overshot the target. It can happen. It can happen, especially when we get absorbed in too much fruitive mentality. Now, of course, we want to serve Krishna to the best extent. But as Srila Prabhupada said, there is competition in the spiritual world, but there's no envy. Everybody's glorifying each other, how they're doing so better. Just like we saw in the Ratha Yatra. It was such a beautiful offering. All devotees had worked tremendously to put on this beautiful festival. And it was such an attractive offering that any person who came into that vortex got completely mesmerized. They got completely mesmerized. Either they ran or they got mesmerized. There was no sitting on the fence. People walked up to the book table like, what is this? Do you have something for me? The first guy who came, he had listened to wisdom of the sages. And I just asked them, okay, which ones do you have and which ones you don't have? And then you just stacked them up and filled up his whole backpack with books. A French finance guy, professor in finance, working in big financial corporation, said he's a devout Catholic, but he's really intrigued by what is going on here. And he took books. So the books were flying in all 10 directions. And for us who are on the front lines, we're like the tip of the arrow. It's a very pointed place, and there's a lot of heat that requires quite a special mindset in order to be functioning in that capacity. But how much use does an arrow have if there's no shaft behind it? It's not very strong. It doesn't have much impact. It doesn't have much thrust. Even if there's not these little feathers at the end of the arrow is not very precise. So unless we have a society, unless we have an example where people can see, oh, these are normal people. There's a culture here. There's families, there's something going on that resonates with me. How much impact will we actually have? So this example here by Brahma is given. Krishna is teaching this example to show us our human frailties. And also he's stating that we should not condemn him like an ordinary living entity because he's an exalted personality. Sometimes we're quite easy to judge or to criticize or to condemn others. Yet we should be able to appreciate every living entity, every devotee, especially persons who have done a lot of service, and see what is the lesson from this for me? What can I learn from this? And in this way, we can help each other to become stronger, to become more resilient, to become more dedicated to the mission of Srila Prabhupada. Because of this incident, there are no temples of Lord Brahma, except one in Pushkar. One. How many of you have been to Pushkar? Special place. Special place. One time we took 7 devotees on a Harinam tour. We went to Jaipur. We had darshan of Radha Govinda. And then somehow the pujaris many of them were Bengalis, so I spoke with them. And they just gave us the whole Raj Bhog for the whole crew. And we were like, and then we went to Pushkar, and it was during the Camel Fair. Now, the Camel Fair is the biggest festival in Pushkar. There's over 1 million people in that small town. And I had 2 or 3 leads of people who were kind of acquainted, friends or life members. And they said, yeah, we can arrange an accommodation. As we got there, I started calling. Nobody answered, nothing. Everything fell through. When we finally got there, it was late afternoon. And the devotees were all anxious. The driver was even more anxious. And I kept going hotel to hotel, asking for rooms for 7 people. And they all laughed at me. They're like, are you out of your mind? Like, we're booked out since last year. Like, everything is taken. They showed us the shoe stall. They said, yeah, you can sleep here. It's 1,000 rupees per person. And I was like, I don't think so. So I kept going. And the devotees were hungry. They were tired. The driver got anxious and angry. So I was just at the end of my wit, at the end of my wisdom. So at that point, I just said, okay, Krishna, I give up. And I was walking, and there was a boundary wall, and I walked, and there was an opening. I walked in there. There was a big courtyard. And there was an old man with a big mustache. And he had his legs up on a cot. He was sitting in a chair. He had his cane. And he was very chill. He was very relaxed. And I went up to him. I said, Prabhu, you have to help me. And I told him my story. And he said, welcome to Krishna's temple. It's a Rukmini Krishna temple, right in the middle of the town. And he said, you can stay here. You only eat Mahaprasad. You stay here and you do your Harinam. So Krishna arranged everything. And for a week, we had Nagar Kirtan through Pushkar with the devotees. And the town was packed out. There's 1 million people. They sell buffaloes and cows and horses and camels. It's the biggest, you could say, like state fair in Rajasthan. And I went into a travel agency and all the young men were standing there with very nice shirts on. And they said, we're Brahmins, we're Pandits, we know all this. This is our tradition, this is our culture. And I asked them, so what does this mean to be a Brahmin? What are the qualities? And I gave them 1842, Shamodamastapashaucham Kshantirarjamameva Chagyanam Vijnanamastikyam Brahma Karma Subhavajam. What does it mean? And they were they didn't know. So I said, okay, you don't know, so you have to take the book. So they took books. Anyway, it was a very interesting visit to Lord Brahma's temple in Pushkar. And a couple of years later, we were at the manor, and one young boy who was working there in the Goshala, I asked him how he came to the manor, how he came to Krishna consciousness. He was from Germany. He said, I was a hippie traveling India, going to all the places, smoking pot. And Pushkar is one of those places that he went to. And in his youth, in his hostel, he found Easy Journey to Other Planets that the landlord had kept at the reception. And those are the books that we distributed when we were there. So you may think, why so much endeavor? Why so much staying up late night? Why so much cooking and cleaning, doing decorations and doing whatever it is that you're doing for Krishna? What's the impact? Have you ever thought like that? What's the impact? It takes time to see the impact. It doesn't always instantly manifest. It requires patience. If you have 1 year time, grow rice. If you have 10 years, grow coconuts. If you have 100 years, grow people. Prabhupada stayed up every night to write 6 pages to give us these law books for the next 10,000 years. That was Prabhupada's time frame. Now we're thinking in terms of shorter time because that's how our mind works. Right now we're in a very interesting time frame of our movement. And we have to learn to deal with time. Krishna is time. And to appreciate service in separation. Vipralamba seva. It's the time where we may not always be in physical proximity with our spiritual master, in physical proximity with devotees. You may be in a remote place, alone by yourself. Can you still be Krishna conscious? Can you still be focused on the mission? Can you still be strong in your resolve, in your vows? It requires training and it requires good association. Srila Prabhupada did not have any god brothers in the West. So what was his association? The devotees. That was his association. And he trained them, he empowered them. Anyone who walked through the door, he treated them like a future leader of the Hare Krishna movement, including all those interesting characters who walked through the door in 26 2nd Avenue. And guess what happened? They became the future leaders of the Hare Krishna movement. And they did great things. And some did peculiar things. But we should not judge. We should learn, okay, what is the lesson to be learned from this, for myself? And appreciate, just like we appreciate Lord Brahma. Now, some people who are a little more, you can call it fanatical or narrow, they will say this never happened. Like they say, Brahma Vimohana Lila never happened because they cannot accommodate it. They cannot deal with it. So they say it never happened. That's one way how to deal with things. In the West, that's not very much appreciated. You have to actually take responsibility and then improve. So, what is the purpose of this? The purpose is to show us not to judge others, especially great personalities, also not to imitate them, and to be aware of our human nature, of our frailties, and to give each other strength. And how do we give each other strength? Shabda Brahma. transcendental sound vibration. How much are we immersed in transcendental sound vibration? Am I hearing the katha every day? Is the katha going on? Am I hearing Bhagavatam? Am I reading Prabhupada's books? Srila Prabhupada said, I only have one criticism, that my followers do not read my books enough. We have been around, and I can honestly tell you less than 10% of our members have all the books, and less than 10% have read all the books. That's quite less, right? 10%. It's not a passing mark. So to create that taste, to create that habit of hearing Bhagavatam and of discussing this transcendental sound vibration, for that reason, Srila Prabhupada has created this ISKCON society. So we can have this program to fortify ourselves so that when we go out there, we're actually strong. We are not becoming swayed by whatever Maya will send our way. And Maya's got your number. You may think, oh, I'm above this. I don't have this problem. But that's your problem if you think like that. Because if you're in the material world, there's a problem. You know, when the new guy comes to prison, they ask him, so what are you in for? And he says, me, I'm innocent, you know, and everybody laughs. Why are you here? Oh, I'm innocent, you know, I'm just here, you know, on a vacation. So I would like to thank all the devotees for their tremendous efforts in the Ratha Yatra. And the festival doesn't stop. It's an ongoing festival. Of course, we have to recuperate and get back into our regular schedules. Yet the festival goes on. It's Nitya Lila. It's not a once a year. Of course, some people, they show up once a year. That's their choice. But we should show up every day. Practice is what happens when no one is watching. So we have these examples, these stalwart examples. So the importance of transcendental sound vibration, it cannot be underestimated, because this universe was created by sound and it will be destroyed by sound. So to the extent that we absorb ourselves in transcendental sound vibration, especially in the chanting of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. To that extent, we'll be fortified. To that extent, we'll be strong. To that extent, we'll be impactful. And you can open any book in any place, and you will find the same message. It is consistent. And if you find that your words do not have much impact, just open a book and tell people, read this, read this. There was one previous god sister of mine here in New York. She used to lose her voice. She just went around and she had a sign. She said, you know, sorry, I lost my voice. You know, please. And then she would show them a shloka, something. Please give a donation. Thank you. God bless. And people would take books. She would distribute a lot of books. She didn't speak. She just communicated the message like that. So these are some reflections on this verse and topic. We have 10 minutes for comments or questions. Yes, Archita Prabhu. You can start. Swasra, matra swasra duitrava navikshano bhavet. Yeah. Mm, mm. Mm. Thank you for Thank you, Archita Prabhu, for giving us the premium version. Like in California, you say, I'm a vegetarian. They say, good for you. You ever had that? Tell people, oh, yeah, meditation. Yeah, good for you. You know, that passive aggressive kind of type of attitude. Huh? So in a similar way, people will say, yeah, Prabhupada is a Shakya Vaishya. He was a this, he was a that. And then in the next sentence, they say, but he couldn't leave anybody who was qualified to carry on the mission. In fact, you know, that's why we have to come in and tell you how it's supposed to be done. Duh. But that comes because the tendency is there to criticize, to find fault, to minimize, especially when one has some accomplishment, when one has something that one thinks, I have achieved, I have accomplished. So Krishna is teaching us these lessons through his own devotees, through Lord Brahma. And the devotees are happy to play that role. They're not happy to go through the episode, but they're happy to play that role, to teach, being an instrument of Krishna for the sake of everybody. Thank you, Archita Prabhu. Other points? Yes, Harinamananda Prabhu and then Gopal Champu Prabhu. I think our tech department is wiped out from last night. Yeah, it's like you're an Aussie, right? So it's like you're Aussie, right? So you go windsurfing or you go surfing, you know, and sometimes you get hit by the wave and it grinds you. And then somebody has to come and drag you out because you're unconscious. You got too much water in you. You can't figure it out anymore. You're going down. Now you can prepare all you want, even if you're the most capable, the most able-bodied, the most skilled person. When those waves come, it can knock you over. So you have to be aware. You have to be prepared for that. So we do everything we can to prepare ourselves. And then when the situation is not there, then at least we have to accept help. When somebody comes and says, Prabhu, you know, there's a little blood coming from your ear. And, you know, it looks like you're not really fully there. But then if we're resistant, because we think, no, I'm good. I figured it out. Like my mom, she's 80 plus. She's real lovable. She's very pious lady. But when her counselor asked her, so what season is it now? She doesn't know. She couldn't answer. She's losing her faculties. She needs help. Then we have to make sure that we are in a position where we accept help. Not that our false ego says, hey, I'm a big boy, back off. Who are you to tell me? What do you want to prove to me? But it also means that we have to invest into those relationships that it goes both ways. Trust has to be earned. Some stranger walks up to you, it's a little hard to take. I was in front of a mall and one young couple, just some lovebirds, they came out of the mall and I showed them the book and they looked at me. And I said, you got to open that button, you got to open that button on your polo shirt. Because that polo shirt, which was too large for me, it was XL. So I had to button it all the way up. Otherwise it would just, kind of slide down. And it looked kind of awkward, because it's a polo shirt, but it was buttoned up all the way. The top button is supposed to be unbuttoned. So they said they were not ready to hear what I wanted to tell them till I opened that button. So sometimes we're too fixed on our rituals, on our little ways of how we think things should be for whatever reason. And then we trip over that and we withdraw into our own little cult, into our own little safe space where we think, oh, okay, here the world makes sense, everything's fine. But then Maya pushes you into the corner and keeps, as you said, keeps pounding you till your coach throws in the towel because this guy's going down and will have heavy concussions. So we have to understand Krishna consciousness is a progressive path. If you're not in a situation of strength, then, take counsel and take time off. Take time off. Not time off Krishna consciousness, but every day we should have quality time for our study, for chanting, also to live a healthy life. And in this way, you can actually be productive and contribute for your whole life. Gopal Champu and then one more. Yes, so we should use the tendency to find fault with ourselves. It's very good to be analytical as long as it's used for self-assessment. But if we are very liberal with ourselves, very indulgent and very critical and very forthcoming with others, then it's the wrong way. Now, if you're in a position of authority, you're a parent, you're a teacher, you're a manager, you're in the unpleasant situation where you have to criticize and chastise and help others to improve themselves. And you do that as a service. And because that mood is service and love and care, people will accept it. But if it comes from a position of arrogance or a position of I'm better than you, then who likes that? Self-righteousness is not very popular in today's marketplace, although a lot of people subscribe to it. But yes. The key concept of the Bhagavad Gita is balance. To be balanced in one's practice, to be balanced in one's recreation, to be balanced in one's work. That's the key message of the Bhagavad Gita. That's why today we have to balance out. We pushed a little hard this weekend. I saw some of you were pushing beyond the limit, and now we have to balance it out. But ultimately, we have to come to a point of balance. Otherwise, we're out of whack. And that's not such a great state to be in. And because we have frailties, as you've mentioned, we need help. We take help, we take guidance from Krishna, from our teachers, but mostly from our peer group. So who are your mentors? Who are your guides? And who is your who is your peer group? Those are the ones who can give you the best reading. They're closest to you. They know you. They have seen you. They have observed you. Those are the people we should actually be very tight. And in this way, we can actually get traction and make progress. So thank you very much for your kind attention. I know it's not hard to unplug and just go on a long walk. So we appreciate you showed up, and let us work together to make this offering even more attractive. I know some are going to New Vrindavan, but we distributed a lot of books and a lot of invitation cards. And believe it or not, some people will actually show up. Already yesterday, I saw a few people from the Rath Yatra from Saturday. Right? You noticed, huh? They're like, hey, I'm here, okay? You see me? Remember me? Huh? You're the guy who gave me that card. Yeah, I got that book. I'm here now. What's it up? And then you can't put a sign outside. Sorry, we're closed, We just did this whole big, huge publicity stunt. Put the sign out, sorry, closed. We went on a vacation for a week, come back next month. Doesn't work like that. One thing that really impresses me, Krishna he's always showing up. He's always there. He's always there in full splendor, ready to engage, very responsive, very attractive, very loving, very kind. So we're very fortunate to have this opportunity and to value the devotees, to value our spiritual masters, who are always present, who are always there, ready to guide us, always there, ready to give us strength and courage. That is always available. It's not about physical proximity. It's about Shabda Brahma, about diving into the teachings and making them our life and soul. And this will be the boat that will carry us over the ocean of birth and death. So don't jump overboard. Don't do stupid stuff, or start drinking, ocean water or all the other. Just stay on the boat. Stay inside the Shabda Brahma, the transcendental instruction. And in this way, there will be smooth sailing. Yes, there will be a few waves. There will be a few storms. It is to be expected, but it's a great voyage. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Shri Radha Govinda Deva ki, Harinam Sankirtan Yagya ki, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki, Nitai Gaur Pemanandi, Vanchakalpatrubhyascha, Kripasindubhyevacha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.